So I get to introduce this next guest, great friend of mine. I just love the passion that this guy's carry. And I talk about being contagious. This guy's contagious. His passion is contagious. You want it. So Nate, come on, buddy. Let's do this.
Thanks, Mikey. All right, how you guys doing? Maybe we all need to stand up and kind of stretch for a minute here. You guys want to do that with me? Been sitting a while. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I get it, D. Woo! Awesome. Matt, do you mind kicking this mic on for me as well? I'm going to do a little something different on this session. Don't turn it on yet, because I'm... Yeah, so kick me this one on. Kick this one on for me. I'm going to have Ed Gibson come up here. And for this session, what I'm going to do is a little interview process, because I thought it would be fun to get some crowd participation in this session. I knew it was going to be after lunch. And, you know, you're like really good while you're eating, and then right after you get done, you know, we start sliding. No, that's fine. Thanks, Josh. All right, so Ed's going to ask me some questions. And Ed, thank you. Awesome. Your session was. Thank you. I really just wanted to be like, Ed, why don't you just take another 20 minutes, you know? Maybe at the end of mine if we have time. But anyway, the story about your invention and how God did that. And then the story about the bankruptcy and coming out of that, extremely encouraging. And I've almost been in bankruptcy myself. So, yeah, that was very... It's nice to know that other people have been down that road too and made it afterwards. So I'm still in the making it stage. You know what I'm saying? Like I look at Ed and I'm like, oh yeah, 5 years. Maybe I'll be where Ed's at. You know, that's with an invention and something's, you know, hitting the market. That's awesome. But anyways, before we start the Q&A, a couple of things about myself, just to familiarize you with where I'm coming from. I went to college, Bible school to go into ministry, and I had a clear call from God into ministry. And when I graduated, moved to Springfield to be a part of Dayspring, and about maybe a year into being at Dayspring and you know being here in Springfield, the Lord started speaking to me about business. And I thought, what in the world? I just went to college and spent all that money, you know, on a Bible degree. What are you talking to me about business? You know, and I came from that mentality that, you know, poverty is close to godliness, right? Wherever you work here. And that was my perspective. And so the Lord had to take me on a journey, and it took several years, probably 15 years for me to retrain the way that I thought about money, about myself, and being able to do ministry in business. And that being just as valuable as doing ministry in the church, right? And so I highly value both, and I operate in both, but I found that most of my time is in the marketplace. Most of, you know, the 60 hours a week that I work, most of the time I'm talking to people outside of the church. I'm talking to people that are either clients or vendors or potential clients. And those people are people that are not influenced by Dayspring. And I wouldn't have that realm of influence with them was it not for the business that I'm in currently. So about 6 years ago, John and Shannon and my wife and I and Phil and Hannah decided to start this organic fertilizer business. And it's morphed over the years into something completely different. We still make organic fertilizer, but we ended up becoming a consulting firm and doing equipment sales and designing manufacturing facilities. So way out of our grid, you know, way out of our experience, but we've had tremendous favor on us really since day one. And a lot of our clients are companies that you would know, and I can't say who they are because I might, you know, break an NDA with them. But so we have several companies that you would know that we work with on a regular basis, and there's no reason that I can see in God's green earth that we should have those connections. But because of his favor, he's allowed us to have influence. And as we've got a hold of that word a few years ago about influence over ownership, right? That's been a real theme. And as we've shared influence, like Aaliyah was saying, the Lord's just continued to increase influence. So anyways, it's been an amazing journey. The first, what do you think, 5 years, John, were not amazing. But after that, it's been amazing. So we had to get through that, that whole, what were you saying about cash flow, Karen? Yeah, you had something you said about cash flow, about how it's like, so how I can pay the bills and stay the same place of debt like every month or something, like that. Except we weren't paying all our bills, so it was really rough. But last year we made about 6 times what we made the year before, right? And this year we've made a third of that the first month. So, just to give you an idea of the acceleration. So we're hoping to, in my personal, I do the sales, So in my personal sales projections, this year I'd like to be at least 6 times more volume than we were last year. So, and that year was 6 times more than the year before. So, yeah, well, yeah, we're shooting for about $4.5 million this year in sales. So that's. But we closed a couple $100,000 this month already, and I'm about to close another couple $100,000 at the beginning of next month. And those are my small projects. So, yeah, it's awesome. Praise God. So anyways, I wasn't going to share that, but thank you, John, for challenging me. That's good. So God is good. I spent most of my years before that making like $20,000 a year. So, the difference has been staggering, but it's also been extremely challenging to my mindset, because what you were sharing it earlier about wealth being a change in us, something that we get to keep inside of us, and then we live it out, and then it manifests in our lives, right? And it takes time, like Karen was saying, you sow one year, you reap the next, and we sowed for 5 years, and sometimes you wonder if the seeds are ever going to come out. You're like, come on, this is taking a long, long, long time. But oftentimes, the bigger the harvest, the longer it takes. So that's a big deal. All right, Ed, I have some pre-scripted questions that I printed off for Ed, and I have some pre-scripted answers because I was going to try to go really quickly. But what I want to do is, after I run through these are questions that I would ask if I could go back 10 years ago as somebody that was interested in getting into business and could ask somebody in my shoes today that's been in business for a number of years and is starting to see some real success. If I could ask that person questions, what would I ask? So I made a list of 5 or 6 questions here that I would ask that person. And then I got to answer the questions, and it was really enlightening for me because I had to process through it. So I have those questions, and then I want to open it up for questions from you guys. And feel free, Ed, to throw in some extra questions as we go if you feel anything pertinent. So awesome. All right, so what do we got?
Okay, so what is your why for owning a business, and why is that important? Why is why important?
Why is why important? So I found out over the years that the why is extremely important for owning a business, because if you're not careful when you get into business in an ownership level, you'll end up getting into owning a job. Right? Anybody
Amen.
else ever owned a job? It's
Amen.
like the most miserable situation you can be in, because before you might have hated your job, but you clocked out and you went home. And, you took a long hot shower and you tried to forget about it. But whenever you own a business, that doesn't happen. And, I've got a engineer that does line design stuff for me, and he always tells me, he's like, man, every night when I go to bed, I'm just like sitting there laying in bed for hours thinking about how I can put these pieces together. And I'm like, that's why I have you. Because I just like to sleep, But it's a reality whenever you own a business that it consumes a lot of your time, a lot of your mental processing. And so I found over the years that I had to have something to keep me going. And I'm a really energetic, passionate person, but you push me enough hours in something and I'll start getting burned out. And so, but if I have a vision I can shoot for, I can just run and run and run and run and run and run and run. So the why for me, if I think back originally, the Lord had a why and I had a why. My why was I want to be financially independent and I want to have a flexible schedule so that I can spend time with my family, I can travel, just flexibility. The job I worked before, I got, vacation, and it was like I was the lowest on the totem pole. So it's like everybody puts in their vacation weeks that they want, and there can only be 2 people a week. And then by the time it gets down to the low end people, you know, us guys that were in our 20s, it was like, well, you can take off, you know, it's like 3 days in January and 2 days in, you know, March or something. It was like, wow, what am I going to do with that? So, you know, I had to work on Christmas Day, you know, a lot. I mean, it was terrible. So I was like, I want flexibility in my schedule, and I don't want to make enough money that I can make a difference in my community. Right? I want to influence what God's doing in other people's lives. I want to be able to bless and sow in. And so that was my why, and it grew into this global. Christy and I were talking about a calling for like being able to just be poor and do it. Like I was totally going to do that route. And then the Lord's like, no, you're not. And I was like, oh, well, it'll take me a while to get over it. But I finally did. But then the Lord was speaking to me about global missions. You know, how can you sow in? How can you invest? How can you be the one that's funding, missionary projects and be one that's funding development projects, in poor communities and overseas? So that was my why. And then the Lord spoke to me early on as I was asking him, Doug, for my burning bush experience. You know, I was asking the Lord, what's your why for this business? What's your why for my life? And the Lord spoke to me and said, I want you to help other people fulfill their dreams. And what I've found over the years, and that was about 6 years ago, he told me that, 7 years ago. And what I found over the years is that as I have shared influence, it's allowed other people to step into dreams that they've had. In a lot of ways in our business, I was trying to figure out how that would fit with making organic fertilizer. And eventually when we had this opportunity to start helping people develop their own products, their own processes, and their own facilities to manufacture what they'd had on their heart to manufacture for a number of years. Whenever I made that connection, that was a business model that was available and right there in front of us, and that there weren't a lot of companies that were doing it or not doing it well or not doing it at a price point that was reasonable, it got me really excited. And so we had a CEO come in, and when his product was running into the bag, he started crying because it took him 6 years to get to the place where he could get that into a bag, right? And right then the Holy Spirit's like, this is what that was. That's what I was talking about. And so ever since then, I've been very passionate about helping people figure out how to develop those products. All right, that was a long answer. Sorry.
Is it too early for my own question?
Additionals, yeah. You throw them in as you feel. Okay. Yeah, necessary.
So I've heard this reason for starting your own business, like to fire your boss.
Yeah, that.
Can you address that? Is that?
Yeah. I think early on there was some selfish, desire to do that, and as because I had.
I'm not saying you did that. I'm just.
Well,
asking
I'm not
about
saying
it
that I
as a
didn't
motive.
do that completely. But I didn't love my work environment, but I was having a good impact from a Christian standpoint. And seeing my boss actually accepted Christ. Phil actually led him to Christ one day in the office. He was still a jerk. I mean, just to be honest. But he led him to Christ, and he would occasionally have us come in and pray for him. And he's in heaven now, so he doesn't mind if I say that, right, Mike? Yeah. But he was, he was just a total nerd, and he would just pester us and bug us all the time. But we were having this awesome positive impact in the workplace, so I knew that I was supposed to be there for a season, and so I felt like there was a release when the Lord said, okay, it's time to step out and start your own business. And so I didn't jump out of that position. I had like hey, I'm going to do this, and it was planned ahead, and I didn't just quit one day. I put my 2-week notice in, and I did it right. I did all the stuff right. But if that's the mentality that you're approaching business with, I'll tell you that you'll end up in a worse place if you do that.
Amen.
Because the Lord will not allow you to not deal with that place in your heart.
That's right.
And one of the things I've learned about business over the years, and gosh, I did, lawn and landscape business, and the volume of customer complaints the first couple of years. I realized that, I have more customer service complaint issues to deal with than I had boss issues to deal with when I worked for somebody else. This is a much more difficult position to be in because it all falls back on me. I'm the business. Doesn't matter who was out there doing the work. I'm the guy that did it. Right? I can't pass it on to a supervisor. I got to take care of it. But the Lord will deal with that in your heart if that's an issue. And that's not a good reason to get into business.
Amen. So what are some things that you wished you had known back when you first started your business?
Yeah, I wish I had known that running a business it entails a lot more than just being a technician. Right? You can work in a business and do like for example, I mowed lawn. I bought a lawn and landscape business during the recession because I needed work and I was just desperate for work, and somebody was selling a business and I bought it. And the first year I was just doing the work, but the second year I took over the business. And then all of a sudden there were 10 other jobs I'd never done that I had to start doing, and I had to start doing them that day. And I didn't realize that being a business owner involves so many hats. I thought that it would just kind of fall together. It doesn't. There are skill sets that you need for all of those things. And something I've learned over the years, and as we started our manufacturing business, was that you don't necessarily, it's actually sometimes better not to know how to do the technical stuff so that you'll focus on growing the business rather than just doing the technical work. You know what I mean? Like it might be easier for me to go start a plumbing business if I don't know how to do plumbing.
Yeah.
Because I can hire somebody to do the plumbing and I can focus on building the business.
Right.
That is a completely different skill set. If you don't have that skill set and you try to start a business, then your business will not be successful until you gain those skill sets. So you want to put those in place. And the nice thing is there are lots of people all around you that have those skills. You just got to find them and pick their brain. And that's literally how we've developed out our businesses. We just get around people that know stuff that we don't know, and we're like, hey, how do you do that?
Yeah, it's great. If you could go back to the beginning and do one thing different, what would it be?
Yeah, okay, so if I could go back and change one thing at the beginning of getting into, having businesses, business can be very stressful if you allow money to push you around, and that's really easy to do. Most of my life, right? Still sometimes. One thing I would go back and do, and this happened to me this last summer, I started having panic attacks. And part of it was I was drinking like 4 cups of coffee a day, which is, that didn't help. But I was drinking that coffee because I was nervous because I had so many financial things going on. And so, making things work, trying to get everything done, trying to perform and, beat the competition, whatever, push. And so I started having panic attacks, and I went to my doctor, and I use Dr. Clark. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Dr. Clark. And he's a believer. And so I go in, and he's checking my stuff, and he's like, well, good news is it's not, I was having, my heart rate was speeding up, and he's like, good news, it's not your heart. Bad news is it's panic attacks. And I was like, I'm not a nervous person. I'm just like go, and it doesn't never stop, And he said, well, it doesn't matter if the stress, you can be joyful, but be under stress, and it still affects your heart the same way. It doesn't matter if you're happy while you're stressed or if you're bummed while you're stressed. It's the same effect. So he said, I'm going to write you a prescription. He got his little prescription paper out, his little doctor prescription, and he wrote, take 1 Sabbath day a week. And so I started doing that, and it was like 2 weeks, and I felt like a different person. It was amazing. And so I've for the most part, I've kept that up. I've had a few blips here and there where I didn't. But I usually it's Friday night to Saturday, 5 to 5 p.m. I don't check my emails, and I don't answer the phone for business clients. And, the first couple of weeks, you're just like, the phone's right there, and you're just like, well, maybe. And I remember the very first Sabbath day, I had a client that was had an issue with a customer that was complaining, and I saw the notification pop up on my phone, and I was so tempted to just see what it said, and I felt my heart rate speeding up. Don't. I was like, no, I'm not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. And so I made it through, and then after that, it's become a lifestyle. But I would highly recommend it. Man, the Sabbath is there for a reason. Take it. Like, get that rest. Get your mind off of work. Don't talk about work. Don't think about work. Just relax and take it easy.
Good. That's in the Bible, I think.
I think it's in the Bible.
That is in the Bible.
A few times.
What would you encourage others who are looking at starting a business to do first?
Yeah, first thing I would do is first pray and make sure that the Holy Spirit's inviting you into that and that it's not an issue like Ed asked about earlier where you're just frustrated with an employer or, fellow employees or customers, whatever. You want to hear the Holy Spirit. And that was something for me, coming from a ministry-minded background. It took several confirmations to finally, get the Holy Spirit to finally kick me out the door to try it, to actually look into business and start looking for opportunities. And so you need to hear the Lord and ask for confirmations, right? Like if somebody randomly comes up to you and says, hey, you're supposed to start a business, don't just take them at their word. Seek the Lord on it.
Right.
And then ask him to confirm that. And it was like 6 or 7 confirmations, and I was finally like, okay, yeah, this is God. You don't need that many. Like I was a bit stubborn, but it was a mindset shift for me, right? That I could do ministry and business. So number 1, seek the Lord for confirmation and make sure it's him. Number 2 is you want to start versing yourself in how to be a business owner. So a few books I read earlier on that's helped me out later in the years is like the E-Myth Revisited. I just started reading business books. The Advantage was another book I read that was awesome. How to Make Friends and Influence People, fantastic book. Supernatural Ways of Royalty that Aaliyah mentioned, fantastic. It's not a business book, but it gets you in the wealth mindset. And then I had another one written down that I was wanting to mention. I printed these off so I could stick them up here and not look at them, Oh, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's the other one that, and then Good to Great. There's several, there's probably like 100 books you could read. But get your hands on some that actually have some practical, implementable principles. Like E-Myth Revisited, it's basically like, here's how you can do a business model. Right? It just lays it out for you line by line. And it also gets your mind outside of the technician's perspective. So, hey, you're not just a plumber wanting to start a plumber business because you don't like that you're making less money than your boss. Right? It's like, oh, you want to be a plumber and start a plumbing business, but you want to do it in such a way so that you can have a successful business with 10 guys working for you doing plumbing, and then you're making the money off of all those guys. Right? So it's just a completely different mindset. Rich Dad, Poor Dad has been really, I've listened to it several times. I like doing audiobooks because I travel a lot, and I'll be on the road or flying, and so I'll just pop it in earphones and listen to these books repeatedly to really get a hold of the information. If I feel like I'm catching something but I'm not getting it all, I'll go back and re-listen. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad has been instrumental in getting my head around the idea of not letting the pressure of bills influence me, and actually letting that be something where I'm motivated to go push for more sales, because I do the sales side, and I never felt like I was good at sales. And when I first got into business, I was terrified of sales, and I did a lot of cold calling, and I was in the salesman purgatory there for a while with you, Ed. We were there together. We didn't know it, but yeah, Abraham was on the other side of the line talking to us. I don't know, but we were both there together, and I didn't feel like I would ever be good at sales. And the Lord's just brought me along over the years and developed that skill in me. But Rich Dad, Poor Dad really has given me a perspective of, hey, I can actually use that bill as a motivation for increasing business instead of just worrying about it. Like, oh, we've got these bills coming up. I'm still going to pay myself first. Yeah. And then I'm going to let the bill come, and I'm going to figure out a way to pay it. Yep. By generating more business, which is then going to be increased business next month when I don't have that bill. That's right. So you can use that as a different mindset.
That's awesome. I kind of lost my place.
Yeah, well, you just go for it, Ed.
What is your favorite thing about being a, did I already ask you this?
I think you did. Oh, no, you didn't. You didn't.
Okay.
You didn't.
Okay.
Go ahead.
What is your favorite thing
4 minutes.
about being a business owner?
Yeah, my favorite thing is whenever you have an 8 to 5 job, sometimes you're motivated, sometimes you're not. But you're contained into that little window of time when you're working. Whenever you're a business owner or you're doing, salary plus commission, something like that, I find myself to be extremely passionate in like chunks of time and then completely demotivated at other times. And so I found that in the flexibility of being a business owner, I can work that schedule. So I might stay up till midnight working on something, but I like have all the energy in the world to do it. And then the next morning or a week later, there'll be like a Monday morning to come around and I will have no motivation to do anything and I have like a massive to-do list. So I'll be like, you know what? I'll take 3 hours off right here and just have a break. But I know that there's going to be another time later in the week that I'm going to slam it for like 10, 12 hours straight, right? Or 14 hours or 16 hours, whatever. It doesn't matter. And so I've learned to kind of swing that schedule a little bit. And I actually am more productive because it's more efficient. Because if I just try to push through, I'm not very productive when I'm demotivated. And I can sit there with a blank piece of paper in front of me and try to write out content for branding all day long. And it's like writing sermons. I write sermons when I'm motivated to write sermons. And I'll knock out a whole sermon in like 2 hours. Just, 12 pages later, I got it. But then if I'm trying to sit down and write a sermon just because I need to do it, I can sit there all day and have like 3 sentences. So I'm finding that I can work that and it's way more efficient. I can get so much more done in less time and have more time off.
And this is a leading question, but should you feel guilty in those times when you are not as productive, when you're a business owner? Should you feel guilty about that?
I don't think so.
Good.
Unless
Right
it's,
answer.
Unless it's damaging your employees below you.
Okay.
Right, I will say
That's a
that.
good
So
answer.
if you're, when you own a business, people depend on you.
Right.
That work for you. And so, there could be a certain point at which you're so demotivated that it starts hurting the business and negatively affecting your employee. Yes, at that point, get a fire under your pants and do something. But,
Right.
but it's not
Amen.
usually the case.
Amen. What principle is God currently teaching you about money right now?
I would say right now, I'm learning how to be free from anxiety. And I've never dealt with the volume, the scale of numbers I'm dealing with now. And I'm learning that what a couple $100 of bills that I didn't have money for used to really freak me out. And then it doesn't anymore. And so now it's a much bigger scale. It's like, oh, tens of thousands of dollars. Okay, that's a lot. That's a pretty good amount of money I need next month. And so I'm finding that as each year passes, it's less and less anxious, and the Lord has been faithful all the way through. So it's never like, it's never like He hasn't come through. It doesn't matter what the numbers are; He's always there. He's always met us. He's always risen to the occasion. So one of the statements that I can't remember who said it. It might have been Phil a few weeks ago. That instead of saying, "God, I've got a big problem," I like to say, "Problem, I've got a big God."
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, amen. All right, I'm down to 36 seconds, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next speaker. Ed, thank you so much. Appreciate it, brother. All right, yeah, give him a hand.